and welcome to the David Tomsic Show, fighting tyranny one day at a time. Friday, May 16, 2025. I'm glad you can join me. The weekend is upon us. In this video, I think is important, this last video of the week, and I hope you watch it till the end. It's about, Donald Trump. Now, if you remember, Donald Trump signed an executive order, one of many, on Inauguration Day, and he basically prevented any more refugees from coming into the United States. Zero, zilch, nada. Remember, because the people that come into this country are eating the cats and dogs. So we got to stop that. Now, I'm going to give you a side note to this. Congress passed a Refugee Act a while back, and it allows for up to 125,000 refugees to be allowed into the country every year. Now, they have to be able to prove they are being persecuted or fear being persecuted because of race, religion, or political beliefs. Now, of course, nowhere near that number has come into this country under Donald Trump. So obviously there's a pretty big allotment there, but he's going to say zero. Executive order. Not so fast, Professor. He decides to make an exception to that. And he's going to expedite the processing of refugee claims by one group from Africa. Now, I thought right off the bat, before I read the rest of this in my articles, that it was maybe some people caught up in the fighting in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You know, women and children are being butchered down there. Thousands, hundreds of thousands have been displaced. This war has picked back up. It's the war between M23, a rebel group, and the government. Now, these M23s, pretty nasty. My understanding is they've killed just about anybody, raped and murdered children and women, Christians, line them up and shoot them. So I'm figuring, well, this is a pretty war-torn area, and it's horrible. And maybe the Donald had an epiphany. Maybe if I help somebody, people will like me. Well, people outside of the MAGA group, the true believers, would like me. Well, that wasn't what happened. That wasn't what happened. Okay, so what President Trump actually did is he's bringing in 49 people from South Africa. These are Afrikaners. I believe that's how it's pronounced. These are people that are descendants from the Dutch who settled there hundreds of years ago. I think it's hundreds of years ago. I'm not sure. Now, these people are white. They're not black. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Why now? Why here? So he was asked that in the press conference. And he said, well, because whites are being butchered down there. White farmers are being killed and their farms taken. Now, if you know anything about South Africa, I did not. I had to research this. I know a little bit, but I really didn't spend a lot of time in the past. Besides when Nelson Mandela was elected, I remember all that. Pretty much the black population, I think it's 80% of the population's black, were ruled by these white folks from the Dutch, brutally. And I think 4% of the farms belong to blacks, and all the rest of the land belong to the whites. I think that's the way it is right now anyway. So this was not a nice place. And so Donald Trump says there's a genocide going on against white farmers. Now, I looked this up, and I could not find that that is true. This has been pretty much a right-wing conspiracy theory for a while. Obviously, for many reasons, it's a right-wing conspiracy theory. We know that there's a lot of racism in right-wing groups. We know that, they were really upset when the blacks in South Africa were able to vote. And of course, they voted for Nelson Mandela. They lost power. A lot of folks want that power back. And in the United States, it's no different. The whole Trump regime is based on white power. There's no doubt about it. So this makes sense to me that, well, he's going to make an exception for 49, just 49, Afrikaners, more privileged people, and they are compared to the blacks. They're 20 times more, have more wealth, or more assets than black people there. 20% more is the average. So, okay, if these people were truly, and so I really don't believe there's an actual genocide. Yes, people have been murdered, and I think people have been murdered on both sides. And I think over the years, a lot of blacks have been really abused under the white apartheid government there. No doubt about it. So yeah, there might have been some murders. It's not at anywhere near the point of a genocide at all. Not nearly in any way. And this is confirmed by groups within the country and outside of the country. But what do I know? Okay, let's say maybe there has been some. So you're bringing 49 here. But what about all those people suffering in basically Democratic Congo? What about those people? They're not allowing anybody there, and there's butchering of women and children. I mean, I won't even say some of the things I found out. It's just too horrible to say what this M24 has been doing to these people. But see, this video is not necessarily about the war in the Congo or about these 49 Afrikaners. It's about the Trump administration's flat-out racism. He's doing this while basically sending trucks down the street and finding people that look like immigrants, whether they have green cards or not, whether they have U.S. status as citizens or not, throwing them into vans and deporting them. Some to El Salvador, illegally because they have no day in court. Okay, they don't get a chance to hear the charges against them. And against our Constitution, of course, and against court orders. So why are we targeting brown people? You see, I believe this, and I've talked to many people about this, and I think you ought to consider this. You see, Donald Trump is a basically outward-facing racist. He doesn't really hide it. He wants to make America great again, and at the same time, make America white again. You see, we're losing a population here in America. White population is decreasing. Many reasons for that. We don't have enough people being born in this country generally to basically fill the jobs that we have now or will have in the future. The birth rate is down. So why are we so interested in getting rid of brown people? Well, obviously, it's because they're brown. It's the only reason. No, this goes back. This didn't, believe me, people, my friends, this is not new. Donald Trump did not create this. Donald Trump's a symptom of a disease of basically hatred for anybody that doesn't fit into the white Anglo-Saxon mold. This goes back to the 50s and definitely farther back. This goes back to a lot of those preachers that, the Jerry Falwells and the Pat Robertsons and others that were not as well known as those two that have laid the foundations of this new conservative Christian movement of nationalism. And in it, the foundation of it basically goes back to racism, goes back to when we decided to finally integrate blacks and whites in America. These people were against it openly and have said so. Pat Robertson had said so. Later apologized, but let's be honest, it really still stems from racism. So the war against brown people, black people, yellow people, people of different cultures and religions is ongoing here. And this little going back on this executive order and this bringing in these 49 people with a special decree just proves to me that he's going to say 49 people, maybe they needed saving. I have no problem with it, people. I don't. But what about others? Do you know the Afghans came in here on a temporary status? Afghans that came here were helping the U.S. military for interpreting. They were workers. They were guides. They came here. Of course, they would have been killed because they worked with the Americans if they stayed there. Well, he revoked their status, and I believe in July they're going to start being deported. How many of these people do you think will live a year there? See, this all comes down to racism. And racism didn't happen overnight. It's always been here, and it always will be here. going back, as I said, to the 50s, to the foundations of these new Reformed Christian churches and theologies. You know, the Apostolic Reformation, when people just exploded into this biblical stuff, and they used the Bible as a crutch to say we're allowed to do this because the Bible says. We don't need to integrate because the Bible says it's against my rights as a Christian. This is what they said. Well, how does that even fit into the gospel? See, people force it into the gospel because they grab scriptures. They grab them and yank them out and they use them. So Donald Trump knows he has cover. He has the whole right-wing base that will cover for him, that will say, this is okay. You don't need to obey the Constitution. You can change your mind anytime you want. 1 minute, no refugees. The next minute, well, we're going to bring some white refugees in. But anybody black or brown or gray or green, no. Even though they may need refugee status to save their lives. Do you know that South Africa basically lost funding for AIDS? The money we gave him, remember USAID, that Donald Trump shut the door, all corrupt, all crooks. Now there's thousands of children dying because there's no more medication. So when Trump and Musk cut USAID, they cut off AIDS treatment and medicines to Africa. They cut off food shipments to Africa. I think AIDS treatments is 12 cents a day. To save a child in Africa is $70 a day. What is that really today in our dollars? It's nothing. But we cut it off because, see, they're black. So they die. I've said this on my other video. We're going to cut off your health care because we're shutting down most of Medicaid if we can. We're going to eliminate 80% of the budget. So if you had health care through that particular program and you have cancer, oh, well, this is the way the Trump administration and many right-wing people think. That's life. Go get a job. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Toughen it out. You know, I rode the T here in Pittsburgh quite a few years at night, and I got to talk to a lot of people. Many were black. They got off shifts from dishwashing jobs and janitor jobs and certain jobs, and I got a chance to talk to them. And this is before I really did a lot of videos. And all the talk you hear about laziness and all these things that minorities are blamed for isn't true. These people were hardworking, honest people. Not perfect people, but hardworking and honest. But we can't get by their skin color, even today. Even though many people, believe me, many people that will comment, they will not believe in any shape, way, or form that they're racist. But yet, when you support apartheid, when you support a racist agenda, you're a racist. You can't get away from it. You can't run from it. You know, the driver in a bank robbery, the getaway driver, is just as guilty as the people who robbed the bank. And if someone was murdered in that felony, that driver of the car, though he didn't participate in a murder, is equally guilty of murder. We have to start waking up here. We got to throw these shackles, literally the shackles of racism out. We need to get on firm ground here. I said yesterday, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me. That's Jesus' words. There's more. You go through the Beatitudes, we can be here all day with a sermon, and I'm not a preacher. But you see, these policies directly conflict with Jesus Christ and those people who claim to be Christians, who believe they're serving Jesus, yet they turn their back on what Jesus would do today as he did back 2,000 years ago. So as these people look at their scriptures, they refuse to see that what Jesus did 2,000 years ago, we're to do today. The woke Jesus, the real Jesus, not the white Jesus. Because, you know, Jesus wasn't white. Okay, let's be quite frank. Jesus wasn't white. There's no white Jesus. But we can't use him as if he was. We can't use him and say, we're going to listen to you, accept all those things you said about helping the immigrant, caring for the needy. And that means providing financial support, which is through our government. We don't even have to work at it. That's what's so hard to even get people to understand. Here in America, we just pay taxes. The government has programs set up to help people, not perfect programs. So don't text me or comment about they're this, they're that, but programs that helped people, that were safety nets for people who need our help, who don't have, who never will have. Some of the people on that T that I took, that train, will never have the ability to make $1 million a year, $100,000 a year. They need help. Too often they need help with health care for their children. Here in Pennsylvania, we had CHIP. It was for children. It was for financially low-income people that had children and they couldn't afford health care. At least their child got health care. I'm for that. But that's spending our money. That's the government. They shouldn't spend our money. So for all those of you that are against supporting government programs that help poor people, I got to say this. Shame on you. Shame on you. It's only money. It's only money. But see, today America has been financialized because now we've been told by Donald Trump and Elon Musk that it's billions and trillions and hundreds of trillions and quadrillions of dollars that they're stealing from us. So shut everything down. They don't need help. Of course, when you're a multimillionaire, you don't need help. I can show you 1,000 people who do. So this stunt here by Donald Trump, and he got in front of the cameras and made it seem like there's this massacre in South Africa, but he didn't mention anybody else in the world, in any other country that's being persecuted, that may need refugee status to save their lives. He didn't talk about anybody else but these 49 people. He interjected, why just them? You should ask yourself that, because they were white. And he wants to make a point because, see, he'd love to see South Africa once again handed over to the whites, just like he wants to do here. He just wants to make sure that the white right control America. Is that what you want? Let me know. Hey, listen, it's all the time I have. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Help us grow the channel, reach more people. We're in a battle, folks. We're in a battle for our freedoms. The battle has now reached the streets of America. It's up to me and you to make a stand for freedom, to make a stand against tyranny, to make a stand against fascism. God bless you. I'll see you next time, Monday, right here on your favorite show for news, analysis, and commentary, The David Tomsic Show.